Part 1. Some nights I still wake to the sound of a pencil scratching on paper, even though it's been 20 years since that blizzard night in Maine. That sound never leaves my head, nor does the streak of purple ink I accidentally drew. That mysterious infinity symbol that even now, I still don't understand why it appeared. I am Eli Graves, but everyone calls me Eli. In 2016, I was 30 years old, working at the Maine Emergency Dispatch Center, a job most people think just involves answering phones and transferring calls. They don't know that some calls you receive don't come from this world. That night, May 15, 2016, a blizzard named Elena was raging across New England. I was working the night shift alone in a building as silent as a tomb. 3 old computers flickered with blue light in the darkness. Their screens displayed GPS signals dancing like electronic ghosts. Around 11:30 p.m., the old black phone in the corner of the desk, the one we called the phantom line because it had no identifiable number, suddenly rang. I still remember its ring, hoarse and distorted, as if coming from the bottom of a sorrowful well. Maine Emergency, Graves speaking. Silence, then the heavy breathing of a child. Hello, do you need help, sir? A small, trembling voice. A little girl, perhaps 8 or 9 years old. Sir, I don't know what to do. My house is broken. I immediately switched to professional mode, my hand ready to type the location retrieval command. What's your name? Where are you? My name is Mara. I don't know where I am. My house is all bent, sir. Bent, you say? Can I pinpoint your location? No, not like that, sir. My house is now a very long corridor. I've walked and can't find the exit. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I quickly typed the GPS retrieval command, but the screen only displayed strange numbers. Coordinates in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 300 miles off the coast of Maine. Mara, can you see anything from a window? I'm looking for a window, sir, but the walls are so long now, I've walked and still haven't found one. Small footsteps pattered through the phone speaker. I could hear the floorboards creaking under her feet and another sound, like a faint wind howling from very far away. Mr. Graves, I found it. I see a light. All right, Mara, walk towards that light, gently now. But it's strange, sir, this light isn't like the lights in the house. It's very yellow, and I hear a car engine. I frowned. In such a blizzard, no car could be moving on the road. Mara, can you describe it in more detail? What do you see besides the light? There are 2 big, round lights shining very brightly, like car headlights, sir. But they look very old. I saw this kind of car in a movie my grandma showed me. My heart pounded faster. I glanced at the clock on the computer screen. 11:47 p.m., May 15, 2016. But below the main timeline, a small line of text appeared. Source time, 23:47, May 15, 1952. 1952, I blinked, thinking I'd misread, but the numbers remained, flickering like a warning. Mara, can you go closer? But be careful. I'm going, sir. This light is very warm, and I hear someone talking. Someone, can you hear what they're saying? They're saying there's a little girl lost. They're looking for me. Mara's voice suddenly became clearer, no longer trembling. But I heard something else. The static of an old radio, perhaps from the 1950s, with the distinctive voice of a news announcer from that era. This is WMA radio. Tonight's weather features heavy snowfall, temperatures dropping to degrees. Rescue teams are searching for a missing 8-year-old girl, Mara Cunningham, missing since last night in the area of. I felt my blood run cold. WMA had stopped broadcasting in 1954. Mara, listen to me. Don't touch that car, okay? But they're waving at me, sir. They're wearing thick coats and they have flashlights. Mara, but it was too late. I heard a car door open, the rumble of an old Jeep engine and a man's voice. Mara, thank God, we found you. Your parents are so worried. Thank you, sirs, for finding me. Mara, can you hear me? Static, then the scratching of a pencil on paper, a sharp, unpleasant sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. I looked down at my hand and flinched. Without realizing it, I was holding a purple ink pen in my right hand, and on the notepad I had drawn a perfect infinity symbol. The ink was still wet, shimmering under the fluorescent light. I didn't remember picking up the pen. I didn't remember drawing anything. The phone in my hand now only emitted a long beep. I put it down with a trembling hand and stared at the infinity symbol on the paper. Then I did what a professional dispatcher should do. I checked everything. I searched for the name Mara Cunningham in the archive system. No results for 2016. But when I expanded the search, Mara Cunningham, 8 years old, missing May 14, 1952, in the Millinocket, Maine area. Found on the morning of May 15, 1952, by a Great Northern Paper Company rescue team. The girl was found in good health, stating that an older brother on the phone had guided her towards the light until she met the rescue team. I read the report over and over again. Then, I checked the GPS data from the recent call. The coordinates displayed 45 degrees north, 68 degrees east, exactly the location of the Millinocket area in 1952. But how could a call from 1952 connect to a 2016 phone system? How could I talk to a little girl who went missing 64 years ago? I looked back at the infinity symbol on the paper. The purple ink had dried, but it still seemed to be moving under the light, as if it had a life of its own. That was the first call. I thought it would be the last of its kind. I was wrong. In the following years, I received many similar calls. Each call came from different places, different times, but all had one thing in common. They all had their own logic. Ages matched the time, technology fit the era, locations were precise to the coordinates, and each time I unconsciously drew something in purple ink. Symbols, emblems that I didn't understand, but they always made sense later. With Mara, it was the infinity symbol, representing a time loop with no end. A little girl missing in 1952 was saved by the guidance of a man in 2016. The man in 2016 knew how to save her because the girl in 1952 had been saved. A perfect loop, no beginning, no end. I folded the paper and put it in my desk drawer, next to other papers with other strange symbols. The drawer was getting full. Outside, the blizzard continued to rage, but I knew that somewhere, in another reality, a little girl named Mara had just been reunited with her family after a long night lost. And in yet another reality, a dispatcher named Eli Graves had just received his first call from a parallel universe. That was the night I understood that emergency calls don't just come from people who need help in this world. Sometimes they come from other worlds, other times, realities we can only imagine. And sometimes we are the only ones who can help them. The phone on my desk rang again. I looked at the screen display. Phantom line. I sighed, picked up my purple ink pen, ready, and answered. Main emergency, Graves speaking. Because that's my job. No matter where those calls come from or when, I will always be ready to answer. Until the day I receive the last call and the person on the other end is me. Part 2. 3 months after the incident with little Mara, I had almost convinced myself that it was just a strange case, explainable by science. Perhaps a coincidence, perhaps a system error, perhaps I had misread the data. Until I received a call from Arizona. It was a June afternoon in 2016, the desert sun slowly setting on the horizon. I was working the afternoon shift, changing my schedule to avoid too many night shifts. After the Mara incident, dreams of pencil scratching on paper had caused me severe insomnia. Main emergency, Graves speaking. Thank God, I need help. I'm stuck here and I don't know what to do. A young man's voice, perhaps early 20s, panicked but trying to stay calm. Nothing unusual until I checked the GPS. Phoenix, Arizona, 2,000 miles from Maine. Can you tell me where you are? The system shows you're in Arizona. Yes, that's right. My name is Jake Morrison. I'm in an old post office near I-10, but something's not right here. Not right how, Jake? This building, it looks like it's been abandoned for years, but there's still electricity, still a phone, and packages here. Jake's voice dropped. They have stamps dated 2087. 2087? Another impossible timestamp. Jake, can you read me the information on one of the packages? Okay, let me see. To Jake Morrison, Desert Rose Lane, Phoenix, Arizona. From J. Morrison, Time Titan Lab for Ball Station. Sent, May 17, 2007. Barcode. The barcode is very long. I've never seen this kind before. I quickly typed the barcode into the system. The result stunned me. Recognized format, Central Postal Code, July 20, Future Standard. How could the system recognize a barcode from the future? Jake, can you describe the building in more detail? It's like an old post office from the 1970s, but it has modern equipment mixed with future equipment. There are old computers with green screens, but also something that looks like a 3D scanner. And every day at 3:03 a.m. and p.m., someone knocks on the door. Someone knocks on the door. Yes, 3 knocks, then silence. I never open the door. Through the window, I see a figure in a postal uniform, but I can't see the face clearly. I glanced at the clock, 5:58 p.m. Arizona time, about 9 hours until 3:03 a.m. Jake, how long have you been there? 3 days. I came in here to escape the heat right outside, but every time I try to go out the door won't open. It won't open. It's not stuck, it opens. But outside it's not Arizona. I see snow, I see mountains, I see a city I've never seen. It's like this door leads to a completely different place. I felt the familiar cold sensation creep into my stomach. My hand unconsciously reached for the purple ink pen, a habit now. Jake, can you check if there's any clear tape in the post office, the kind used for sealing? Yes, there's a lot. Why? I need you to do a few things. First, make a circle around where you're standing with the tape, large enough for you to sit inside. This might sound strange, Jake, but do you trust me? I've handled similar situations. I heard the sound of tape being pulled, Jake moving around. Done, now what? Is there a heater in there? There's an old electric heater, it's working well. Keep it running constantly, don't turn it off no matter how hot it gets. And Jake, when 3:03 comes, don't open the door. Why? What will happen if I open the door? I hesitated. How could I explain something I didn't understand myself? I'm not sure, but I think that post office is located at a nexus point of different times. The tape will create an insulating layer, and the heater will prevent time from freezing. Time from freezing? What are you talking about? Jake, do you feel like time is moving slower than usual? Or have you noticed the clock skipping numbers strangely? Silence on the other end. Then Jake spoke, his voice trembling. How did you know? Ever since I came in here, my wristwatch keeps jumping back 17 minutes every hour. And sometimes I find myself doing something I don't remember starting. All right, that proves my guess is correct. Sit inside the tape circle, keep the heater running, and wait until morning. When the sun rises, try to open the door again. And if the mail carrier comes, don't open the door, don't answer, don't do anything. Now I had to wait and draw. On the paper in front of me, my hand automatically drew concentric circles, like ripples on water. Each circle represented a different point in time, all intersecting at a single point. 9:00 p.m. Jake was fine. 12:00 a.m. Jake reported hearing a truck from afar. 3:00 a.m. I held the phone close to my ear. I heard footsteps. Jake whispered, "Someone's coming to the door." Knock, knock, knock. 3 clear knocks through the phone. Jake, do you hear anything? There's a voice. They're saying, "Package for Jake Morrison, please sign." But the voice, it sounds like me. I felt a chill. Don't open the door, Jake. They're knocking again, harder this time. Knock, Jake Morrison, knock. I know you're in there. You have a package from the future from yourself. Jake, are you still sitting in the tape circle? Yes, but the tape is starting to melt. The heater doesn't seem hot enough. Turn on all the other electrical equipment in there. Computers, lights, everything. I heard Jake fumbling to turn on devices. The knocking stopped, Jake whispered, but I hear something else like time cracking. That's when the phone started getting static. Not normal static, but like radio waves from deep space. Jake, can you hear me? I see light outside. 2 lights like 2 suns. 2 suns, a normal sun and another dimmer further away. It's like I'm seeing 2 times at once. On the paper, my hand drew a straight line through all the circles, an escape route. Jake, now open the door and step outside, but only look at the brighter sun. Don't look at the dimmer one. Are you sure? I'm sure, go. I heard the door open. The desert wind rushed in and Jake sighed in relief. I'm outside. It's normal, one son. My car is still there and it looks like it's been repaired. Are you okay? I'm fine, but Mr. Eli. Yes. When I turned back to look at the post office, it was gone, just an empty plot of land. The line went dead. I smelled a strong ozone scent spreading through the dispatch room, even though there was no storm. On the desk, the electronic equipment began to flicker erratically. I looked down at the paper, concentric circles with a straight line through them, a symbol for a temporal nexus with an escape route. Perfect logic. Jake was stuck at a point where multiple timelines intersected, and that post office acted as a transit station between realities. The mail carrier at 303 was probably Jake himself from another future, trying to deliver goods to his past self. The packages from 2087 could be equipment or information future Jake sent back to present Jake. And when the cycle was broken, that nexus point vanished, returning to normal linear time. I put the paper in the drawer next to the infinity symbol from the Mara incident. 2 symbols, 2 calls from different realities. I began to realize that this was not a coincidence. There was a reason these calls came to me. There was a reason my hand always unconsciously drew the correct symbols, but I still didn't understand what that reason was. The phone rang again. This time, it wasn't the phantom line, but a regular emergency line. A car accident on I-95. Nothing supernatural, nothing strange, just a normal call from the normal world. But while I recorded the accident information, a part of my mind still thought about Jake Morrison and the vanished post office. I wondered if somewhere in another reality, Jake had become his own mail carrier. And I wondered if one day I would receive a call from myself. The answer to that question would come sooner than I thought. Part 3. In November 2016, I was transferred to work at an underground meteorological station in Chicago to assist in a temporary research project. It was a strange job, monitoring meteorological signals from 40 meters deep underground, where, in theory, there should be no weather activity. But I needed a change of scenery. After 2 calls from other realities, my sleep had gotten much worse. In my dreams, I often saw myself sitting in a room full of screens, receiving calls from places that didn't exist. And in every dream, my hand held a purple ink pen. Chicago seemed like a safe place, a large, modern city with advanced communication systems. No room for strange calls from other times. I was wrong. The underground meteorological station was located beneath the Willis Tower, built in the 1970s as part of an early warning system for severe weather. Subbasement BB was the deepest level, where seismic and magnetic field sensors were located. The first night I was on duty there, I immediately felt something was off. The air in the subbasement was unusually cold despite the heating system working normally, and there was a faint vibration, almost imperceptible, but always present. Graves here, I'm listening. The call came at 2:17 a.m. on November 23rd via the station's internal line. I checked the duty roster. I was alone in the building at this hour. Thank God, I finally got through to you. A middle-aged man's voice familiar, but I couldn't place it. Who are you? How do you have this internal number? I'm Musin Wheeler. Don't you remember me? We worked together on level B for 2 years. Musin Wheeler. The name sent a shiver down my spine. I knew that name. Musin, where are you right now? I'm in subbasement 5B, Eli. Something very strange is happening here. Ever since you left, these things, they've grown. Subbasement 5B, I checked the building diagram. There was no subbasement 5B, the building only went down to subbasement 4B. Musin, what things are growing? The bone antennas. They're protruding from the ceiling, from the walls, white like dead bones. And every time they vibrate, I feel my blood run cold. Bone antennas. I looked around subbasement 4B and gasped. On the ceiling, what I had always thought were water pipes now, looking closely, they were dull white, with the shape and texture of animal bones. Musin, can you tell me when you died? Silence on the other end, then a heavy sigh. You already know, don't you? I died on May 15, 2014, an accident in the electrical lab, electrocution. I opened the personnel file on my computer. M. Wheeler, 47, meteorological technician. Deceased May 15, 2014, due to electrocution accident during sub-basement equipment maintenance. File noted. Equipment found in unusual operating condition, emitting radio waves at an undetermined frequency. Musin, why are you calling me? Because they're spreading, Eli. The bone antennas are growing to the upper levels, they'll reach 4B soon, and when they do, static. Then another sound, a metallic scraping like claws on steel. I looked up at the ceiling. One of the pipes was gently vibrating, and from its end, something white began to emerge. It had the shape of a branch but the texture of animal bone. Musin, can you tell me the exact location of the lab? Room 4B07, southeast of 4B, do you have my experiment log? I moved to room 4B07. The door was locked, but I had the master key. Inside was a small room full of old electronic equipment. On a desk, a thick logbook with charred edges. Found it. Turn to the entry for May 10, 2014. I flipped the pages. Musin's neat handwriting. May 10, 2014. Magnetic field sensor detected anomaly beneath subbasement. Signal appears to originate from an ancient underground water network, possibly prehistoric. Coordinates mapped, further investigation needed. Musin, what did you find down there? A natural cave system, Eli, and in it were things that shouldn't exist. Fossilized bones of creatures not of this earth. They absorbed the magnetic field and became natural antennas. I heard the vibration from the ceiling grow stronger. Looking up, I saw the bone branch had grown several more inches, and its tip was starting to branch like a miniature tree. How do I stop them? Cut the power. Cut all power to subbasement 4B without electricity, they won't be able to grow. I ran to the main circuit breaker box, my hand on the master switch. I hesitated. Musin, if I cut the power, what will happen to you? I will disappear, but it's what needs to be done. These antennas, they don't just receive signals, they transmit them. Transmit to places we don't want anything to know about our existence. What places? Places where death is just another state of life. I pulled the switch down. All the lights in the subbasement immediately went out. In the darkness, I heard the scraping stop, then something fall to the floor, like dry bones shattering into pieces. The phone had gone dead, but I could still hear Musin's voice echoing in the air. Thank you, Eli. I can finally rest. I turned on my flashlight and shined it on the ceiling. The water pipes had returned to their original form, no longer protruding with bone branches. On the floor were white fragments that would turn to dust in a few hours. In the flashlight's beam, I sat down and opened the paper. My hand began to draw. This time, it was a complex network of lines and curves, like an electrical circuit diagram, but more organic. At the center was a point, and from that point, lines spread out like roots. When I finished drawing, I understood its meaning. It was a map of the underground water system beneath Chicago, with marked intersection points. Points where life and death intertwined, where the dead could use electrical energy to communicate with the world of the living. Musin had died 2 years ago, but his consciousness remained trapped in the sub-basement's electronic system. The bone antennas were his way of trying to extend his influence, to find a way out. But at the same time, they could also be a gateway for other, more dangerous things to infiltrate our world. I checked the thermometer. The room was at normal temperature, but for 3 seconds, it displayed -200°C, absolute zero. The temperature at which all atomic activity stops, the temperature of complete death. Then, the thermometer returned to normal. As if that cold was just a reminder that life and death are separated by a very thin line. The next morning, I submitted my transfer request back to Maine. When my supervisor asked why, I just said I missed home. There was no way I could explain that I had talked to a colleague who had died 2 years ago. Musin Wheeler's file was sealed and archived. Sub-basement 4B was closed for equipment maintenance. I heard they poured concrete into all the pipes down there, but I knew that there are places where concrete cannot stop what is dead from returning. There are mysterious networks beneath large cities where consciousness can persist long after the body has decayed. And sometimes, they need someone in this world to help them find peace. I put the paper with the network map into the drawer, next to the infinity symbol and the temporal nexus symbol. 3 calls, 3 different realities. But I began to see a pattern. All these calls came from places where the boundaries between realities became thin. Places where time, space, or life and death intersected, and all needed someone on this side to help. I began to wonder if I had been chosen for this role from the start. Were the symbols I drew not from intuition but from some knowledge pre-installed within me? The answer to those questions would come very soon. The phone rang again. This time, it wasn't the phantom line but a regular emergency line. A car accident on I-95. Nothing supernatural, nothing strange, just a normal call from the normal world. But while I recorded the accident information, a part of my mind still thought about Jake Morrison and the vanished post office. I wondered if somewhere, in another reality, Jake had become his own mail carrier. And I wondered if one day I would receive a call from myself. The answer to that question would come sooner than I thought. Part 4. Months later, I returned to Maine, hoping the strange calls would end. I'd transferred to a cybersecurity consulting firm, thinking that moving away from emergency dispatch systems would free me from these supernatural experiences. But it seemed no matter what I did, they still found me. The call came at 3:24 a.m. on August 18th via my personal cell phone. I had never given this number to any dispatch system. Graves here, can you help me? I need the startup code for a defibrillator. A child's voice, probably around 10 years old, but with the tone and mannerisms of an adult. It sent a shiver down my spine. What's your name? Where are you? My name is Dr. Samuel. I'm at Dallas Children's Hospital, bed number 7, pediatrics, and I need the startup code for the defibrillator to save a soul. Dr. Samuel, a 10-year-old child calling himself a doctor. What do you mean by save a soul? There's a boy in a coma in this bed. He's been in a coma for 5 years. His soul is trapped between life and death. I need to use the defibrillator to create a special electrical pulse to help his soul break free. I turned on my computer and looked it up. Dallas Children's Hospital was real. Pediatrics had bed number 7, and according to this record, a 10-year-old boy named Samuel had been in a coma in bed number 7 since August 15, 2012. He had been in a traffic accident. Yes, that's me, but you're talking to me. You can't be in a coma and talking at the same time. I'm talking from inside my own body. My soul is still conscious, but trapped in a comatose body. I've spent 5 years researching, learning, and understanding how life and death work. I felt the familiar cold spread through my body. Samuel, how are you able to call me? I use the electromagnetic field of my brain to control electronic devices. After 5 years of practice, I can connect to any electronic system within a few miles. What do you want me to do? The defibrillator here is locked with a code. I need you to hack into the hospital system and get the startup code. That code will allow me to control the machine myself. This was a crazy request. Hacking into a hospital system was illegal. But Samuel, if I help you, what will happen? I will use the defibrillator to create a special electrical pulse. This pulse will release my soul from my body, allowing me to pass on. Pass on where? To the place where children's souls go after fulfilling their mission. I hesitated. This sounded like assisted suicide. Samuel, I need you to promise me one thing. Are you sure this is what you want? Is there no way for you to wake up and live a normal life? No, Mr. Eli, after 5 years, the brain of this body is too damaged. But my soul is still there, and I've learned things that can only be learned in this state. Now I need to transfer that knowledge. Transfer where? To other children who are in similar situations. There's a network, Mr. Eli, a network of children's souls trapped between life and death. We teach each other, support each other. I thought of Musin Wheeler and the bone antennas. Was this also a similar kind of network? All right, Samuel, I'll help you, but you have to promise me one thing. What? If there's any other way, you have to try that first. I promise, but Mr. Eli, there is no other way. I've tried everything. I began hacking into the Dallas Children's Hospital system. With my cybersecurity experience, it wasn't too difficult. I found the medical equipment database and looked up the defibrillator in pediatrics. Samuel, The startup code is 7749 Delta Raise Primary. Thank you. I heard the sound of machinery operating through the phone, then Samuel's voice. Can you hear it? The machine is charging. Samuel, are you sure about this? I'm sure, Mr. Eli, and I want you to know this isn't death. This is just moving from one state to another. A long beep through the phone, then a crackle of electricity, a short, sharp sound followed by complete silence. Samuel, Samuel, can you hear me? No response. The line was still connected, but there was no other sound. I immediately checked the Dallas Children's Hospital information. According to medical records, at 3:47 a.m., Samuel's vital signs monitor displayed an abnormal burst of brain activity, lasting 15 seconds, then flatlined completely. But the strange thing was that the defibrillator in pediatrics remained off. According to the monitoring system, it hadn't been used in the past 3 months. How could Samuel have used a machine that was off? I sat down and let my hand take the purple ink pen. This time, what I drew was more complex. A circle with waves inside, like radio waves or brain waves. At the center was a bright point, and from that point, the waves spiraled outwards. When I finished drawing, I understood its meaning. It was a symbol for energy transfer. Energy from one source converted and emitted in another form. Samuel had used the electromagnetic energy of his own brain to create a simulated electrical pulse from the defibrillator. He had freed himself from his comatose body by creating an internal electronic shock. But that meant Samuel had the ability to control electronics at a level that current science couldn't understand. He had spent 5 years developing this ability in a comatose state. I wondered how many other children were in similar states. How many children's souls were trapped between life and death, learning things this world wasn't ready to understand. And more importantly, had Samuel succeeded in transferring his knowledge? The next week, I read a small news item. On the same night, 17 comatose children in different hospitals across the country suddenly woke up. Doctors couldn't explain the phenomenon. I smiled. Samuel had succeeded. He had transferred the knowledge of how to break free to 17 other children, helping them wake up instead of remaining trapped. That was the first time a call from another reality had brought a completely positive outcome. Nothing horrifying, nothing scary, just a brave child sacrificing himself to save other children. I put the paper with the energy transfer symbol in the drawer. 4 calls, 4 different realities. But this time, I felt warmth instead of cold. There were souls in other realities who didn't need saving, but just needed help to fulfill their mission. And sometimes that mission was more beautiful than anything in this world. I began to understand that my role was not just to receive distress calls, but also to facilitate important events. I was a kind of intermediary, a bridge between realities, but I still didn't understand why it was me, why these calls came to me instead of someone else. The answer to those questions would gradually unfold in the next calls. The phone rang. I looked at the screen, a strange number, but I already knew this would be a special call. Graves here, I'm listening. Because that's what I do. Listen to the calls from other realities and help in any way I can, no matter where it leads me. Part 5. I thought I understood the pattern of these calls. They came from places where realities intersected: time, space, life, and death. I was prepared for anything, but I wasn't prepared for what music could do to the human soul. The call came at 7:00 p.m. on May 23rd as I sat in my home office in Portland. Outside, a May shower tapped rhythmically on the roof, a sound almost hypnotic. I was reviewing the symbols I'd drawn from previous calls, trying to find a connection between them. The desk phone, an old black one I'd kept from my dispatch days, rang with its familiar hoarse sound. Graves here. First, the sound of water. Not the rain outside, but deep, silent swamp water with the sound of small waves lapping against muddy banks. Then I heard something else that made my heart stop. A music box. A simple lullaby tune, but something was wrong with the rhythm. It was a little slower, a little off-key, as if the music box was broken or dying. Hello, does someone need help? Can you hear me? A middle-aged woman's voice, trembling and weary. Can you hear the music? Yes, I hear it. Is that a music box? Where are you? I'm not sure. My name is Mylene Budrow. I'm in the swamp. Perhaps in Louisiana. There's a small boat and in it there's a music box. It won't stop playing. I checked the GPS, somewhere in the Louisiana swamps near the border with Mississippi. Mylene, can you describe the music box in more detail? It's very old, made of oak with intricate carvings. Inside, there's a tiny dancer spinning to the music. But that dancer looks like me when I was a child. The music box continued to play through the phone, and I started to notice what Mylene had mentioned. The rhythm was indeed problematic. It was about 0.27 seconds slower than the normal tempo of the lullaby, Frere Jacques. Mylene, do you feel short of breath, or a sensation like time is slowing down? How do you know? Her voice grew weaker. Ever since I found this music box, everything's become strange. The air is heavy like honey, and I keep coughing up tiny shards of glass. Coughing up glass, I felt the familiar cold spread through my body. Mylene, can you tell me how long you've been there? Perhaps a few hours. But according to my watch, it's been 3 days, and now my watch is also slowing down. I understood. That music box was creating a time distortion field. The slowing rhythm was pulling time around Mylene along with it, and her body couldn't withstand this difference. Mylene, I need you to follow my instructions very carefully. Do you have a stopwatch or a metronome? No, but I have my phone. It has a metronome app. Good. Turn on the metronome and set it to 120 BPM. That's the normal tempo of that lullaby. I heard Mylene fumbling with her phone, then the metronome began. Steady, precise, completely opposite to the slow tempo of the music box. Now, Mylene, I need you to do something very important. When I speak, you must answer me exactly to the metronome's beat. Each word must match one beat. Understood? I'll try. This was where I had to bet on intuition. If the music box was slowing down time, Mylene needed to synchronize her biological rhythm with normal time to escape. Mylene, start counting from 1 to 10. Each number must match one metronome beat. 1, 2, 3. Her voice trembled at first, but gradually became steadier. 4, 5, 6. I noticed her coughing had subsided. As Mylene synchronized with the normal rhythm, her body began to escape the music box's influence. Excellent. Now, while still keeping the beat, describe to me what you see around you. I'm sitting on a small wooden boat. Each word was perfectly in sync with the metronome. Around me is reddish-brown swamp water. Reddish-brown like blood. Perhaps, and there's a metallic smell, the smell of iron. I began to understand. This wasn't just a normal swamp. This was a place where a tragedy had occurred, and that music box was holding onto the echoes of the pain. Mylene, can you see anything else in the water? Things that don't belong in a swamp. Yes, I see metal fragments, like pieces of a car. A car accident in the swamp. Mylene, do you remember how you got there? I was driving home. It was raining heavily, my car lost control and plunged into the swamp. I felt a harsh cold. Mylene, do you remember what year it was? 1987, May 1987. 1987, 30 years ago. Mylene, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You died in that accident, but the music box, it held onto a part of your soul. Silence, except for the steady metronome and the slow music box. I know, Mylene's voice was sad but peaceful. I've known for a long time, but I couldn't leave. The music box held me back. Does that music box have any special meaning to you? It was my 8th birthday gift from my grandfather. He said whenever I was sad, I should listen to the music, and everything would be okay. I understood. That music box wasn't just an object. It was anchoring Mylene to this world, to the memory of her childhood and safety. When she died in the accident, her soul clung to the last safe thing she could think of. Mylene, I need you to do one last thing. Can you touch the music box? Yes, but every time I touch it, time slows down even more. I understand, but this time it will be different. I want you to still keep pace with the metronome, and when you touch the music box, tell it you're ready to let go. But if I let go, where will I go? You'll go to where your grandfather is waiting for you, to a place where there's no suffering, no distorted time. I heard the water rippling as Mylene moved in the boat. I'll try. The metronome remained steady, the music box still slow, and between those two opposing rhythms, I heard Mylane's voice. "Grandpa, I'm ready. I don't need the music box anymore. I can let go now." The music box began to speed up. Little by little, it started to match the metronome's rhythm. And when the two rhythms finally synchronized, a snap, a sharp sound like breaking glass, then complete silence. Mylane, can you hear me?" Only the sound of the wind blowing through the swamp and the steady metronome. Mylane had passed on. I hung up and sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the rain had lessened, leaving only the sound of water dripping from the eaves. My hand automatically took the purple ink pen and began to draw. This time, it was a complex spiral with smaller circles inside. At the center was a point, and from that point, curves spread out in the shape of sound waves. When I finished drawing, I understood its meaning. It was a symbol for synchronization. The way two different frequencies could harmonize, or how a soul could find peace through music. Mylane had been trapped in the swamp for 30 years, unable to move on because of the music box. The ultimate symbol of childhood safety had created a time distortion field. Only when she learned to synchronize with normal rhythm could she let go and find peace. I opened my computer and searched for car accidents in Louisiana in 1987. I found Mylane Budrow, 35, died in a car accident on May 23, 1987 in Mars Swamp. Body never recovered. Family held a memorial service without a casket, but one detail caught my attention. Among personal items found in the car was an antique oak music box. The music box was heavily damaged, its mechanism broken, but it could still emit a faint sound. The article noted that the family kept the music box as a memento, but according to them, sometimes on quiet nights, they could still hear music from the box, even though it was completely broken. Until tonight. I put the paper with the synchronization symbol in the drawer. 5 calls, 5 different realities. But this time, I felt something had changed within me. Mylane was not a victim. She was a lost soul who found her way home, and I had helped her do it. Perhaps that was the true purpose of these calls, not for me to save someone, but for me to help them save themselves. To become a bridge to help lost souls find their way home. But why me? Why did I have the ability to hear these calls and know exactly what to do? The answer was gradually appearing, like a puzzle being completed piece by piece. And I had a feeling that the next calls would bring me closer to the truth. The phone rang again. But this time, when I looked at the screen, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The number displayed was my own phone number. Someone was calling me from my own phone number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Graves here." But that's a story for another time. For now, I'm still trying to understand the meaning of what just happened to Mylane and wondering how many other souls are waiting for someone to help them find the right rhythm to go home. Part 6. A few months later, I received an email from Muller and Associates Construction Company in Berlin. They were experiencing an unusual technical problem in their subway system expansion project and needed a communications system specialist for consultation. The salary they offered was unusually high, and specifically, they requested me, Eli Graves, even though I had never worked in Europe. When I asked how they knew about me, their answer sent a chill down my spine. "Your name was found written on the tunnel wall. We thought you might be able to explain it." 2 weeks later, I was in Berlin, standing before the entrance to Tunnel K23, a newly excavated section deep beneath Mitte, what used to be the heart of East Berlin. Hans Muller, the project director, was a silver-haired man with the tired eyes of someone who had seen too many strange things. "Herr Graves," he said in English with a heavy German accent, "I must warn you that what you are about to see has no logical explanation." We went down a service elevator, about 25 meters deep underground. The air down there was damp and smelled of old clay mixed with metal. The sound of excavators had ceased, leaving only the sound of water dripping from somewhere in the darkness. "The problem started 3 days ago," Mr. Muller explained as we walked along the unfinished tunnel. "Our crew was digging to the intersection with the main line when they discovered this." He stopped before a wall of raw clay. Under the harsh LED lights, I could see lines of text carved deep into the wall with some sharp tool. The writing was clear, neat in English. "Eli Graves, 36 years old, will die on May 15, 2020, in a car accident on I-95 near Portland." He will leave behind a wife named Stephanie and a daughter named Emma. Before his death, he will write 57 reports on calls from parallel realities, but only 12 reports will be found after his passing. I felt my blood run cold. That was my future, written in details no one could possibly know. I had never married, had no children, and had never written any reports about strange calls. "This is why we contacted you," Mr. Mueller said. "This writing appeared after we dug through a layer of earth dating back approximately 800 years, but here's the strangest thing." He brought me closer and pointed to the last line. He is reading this line at 14:27 on October 18, 2017. I glanced at my watch. 14:27, exactly. "Oh my God," I whispered, switching to German without knowing why I knew how to speak it. "You speak German?" Mr. Mueller asked, surprised. I was equally surprised. I don't know, I've never studied German." "Herr Graves, perhaps you should know more about this location. We are digging beneath what used to be the old Alexanderplatz, and according to historical records," he hesitated, "this was once the site of a temporary Stasi prison camp from 1975 to 1989. Many people disappeared here." Stasi, East German secret police. A wave of memories not my own washed over me. Footsteps on concrete corridors, the clang of iron doors, and the voices of those being interrogated. "Has anyone else seen this writing?" I asked. "Only the crew and I, but there's something strange." Mr. Mueller took out a camera. "Yesterday, I took a picture of this writing. Today, when I opened it to review, the content had changed." He showed me the camera screen. In the photo, the last line was completely different. He will tell Hans Mueller that these words are unbelievable, but deep down, he knows them to be true. I looked back at the wall. Now the last line had changed to, he is thinking about memories that are not his own. Memories of the Stasi, of footsteps on concrete corridors. Exactly what I had just thought. "Mr. Mueller," I said, my voice trembling, "I need to meet the workers who discovered this writing." We went to the temporary tent where the crew was having lunch. There were 5 men, all looking tired and worried. The foreman, a man about 50 named Nguyen Van Duck, spoke good English. "Mr. Graves," Mr. Duck said when he saw me, "we've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me? Why?" On the wall, there was another line of writing in Vietnamese. It said you would come and help us understand this. Mr. Duck led me to another section of the wall. Below the English lines, there was a Vietnamese passage carved in the same style. "Eli Graves will understand that he is not just the recipient of calls, but also the creator of them. The loop is about to close." "The loop is about to close," I repeated. "What does that mean?" One of the younger workers, perhaps 25, spoke up. "Sir, ever since we found this writing, we keep hearing a phone ringing from underground, but there are no phones here." A phone ringing from underground. I felt a strange connection. "Can you take me to where you hear the phone?" We went deeper into the tunnel, to the very end where the excavator had stopped. Here, the clay wall had a natural crack wide enough for a person to squeeze through. "The phone sound comes from in there," Mr. Duck pointed to the crack, "but we dare not enter." I turned on my flashlight and squeezed through the crack. Inside was a natural space, perhaps an old bunker or a trench from wartime. The air was thick and smelled of old paper. My flashlight beam hit a corner and I gasped. It was an old metal desk. On it was a black phone from the East German era, and around the desk were dozens of papers, all with handwriting in purple ink, my handwriting. I approached and picked up a paper. It was the transcript of the call from Little Mara. The details were perfectly accurate, but written in a script I didn't recognize as my own, even though it was clearly my writing. Another paper documented Jake Morrison and the post office in Arizona. The third about Musen Wheeler and the bone antennas. All the calls I had received, but transcribed by another version of me. The phone rang. I looked at it for a moment, then picked it up. "Eli, I finally got through to you." The voice was eerily familiar. It was my own voice, but older, more tired. "Who are you?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "I am you, Eli. I am you from 2025. I am calling to warn you about what is about to happen." "This is crazy. I can't talk to my future self." "But you are, aren't you? And you know this is real because you've experienced 6 calls from other realities. You've learned that time and space are not fixed lines. I sat down in the old metal chair. Why you? Why am I calling myself? Because there's something I have to tell you. The calls you receive, they're not from other realities, they're from different points in time within this same reality. What does that mean? Mara in 1952, Jake Morrison in 2016, Musin in 2014 all exist simultaneously in a complex temporal network. And you, Eli, you are the connection point of that network. I look down at the papers around me. So these transcripts, that's your work in the future. You will become the transcriber of these calls, creating a database of temporal intersection points. And this bunker, it will become the dispatch center for all those calls. But why in Berlin? Why here? Because this is where the highest density of temporal intersection points on Earth exists. The division of Berlin, the Berlin Wall, the death strip Saul created cracks in the fabric of time. I stood up and went to the wall. The writing had changed again. He now understands that reading these lines is part of the loop. By reading, he has created the information he is reading. This is a paradox, I said into the phone. Not a paradox. This is how time actually works. It's not a straight line, but a complex network of self-creating loops. So what happens next? You will return to America. You will continue to receive calls, and gradually you will understand your true role. What role? You're not just the recipient of calls, Eli. You are the creator of this system. In the future, you will build a cross-time communication network, allowing lost souls from all times to contact each other. I felt dizzy, but I'm just a normal dispatcher. No, Eli, you are something more than that, and you will soon discover it. The line disconnected. I sat in silence, staring at the papers with my future self's handwriting. From outside, I heard Mr. Muller call, "Herr Graves, are you all right?" "I'm fine," I called back, but I wasn't fine at all. I collected all the papers and stuffed them into my jacket pocket. As I was about to leave the bunker, I looked back at the wall one last time. The last line had changed to, "He will return here in 2020, not to die in a car accident as written, but to begin building the dispatch center. The future can be changed." I smiled. Perhaps my future self had given me a chance to change fate. When I squeezed out of the crack, Mr. Muller and the workers waited with worried expressions. "What did you find?" Mr. Muller asked. "I found the future," I replied, "and I know what to do." The following week, the K-23 tunnel construction project was suspended due to the discovery of significant historical artifacts. The bunker was sealed and handed over to the Berlin Archaeological Institute. But I knew that one day I would return here, not to die, but to live, to create something larger than myself. I flew back to Maine with a bag full of papers about the future and a new understanding of my role in this vast universe. I was not just the recipient of calls, I was the one who would create the entire system. Part 7. After the Berlin trip, my perception of reality had completely changed. I decided to dedicate time to deeper research into the calls I had received. I rented a small cabin in Bar Harbor, Maine, far from everything, with only a satellite phone and the papers from Berlin. I was trying to find the hidden pattern behind these calls. Each call came from a point where time and space were distorted. Each call required a different solution, and each call left a symbol that my hand unconsciously drew. But no call had prepared me for what was about to happen. The call came at 11:43 p.m. on April 12th via the satellite phone. I was sitting by the window, looking out at the Atlantic Ocean, a cooling cup of coffee in my hand, and scattered notepapers on the desk. "Graves here. Thank God, I need help. We're lost at sea, and there's something wrong with time here." "What's your name and where are you?" "I'm Captain James Walders of the yacht Atlantic Paradise Asterisk. We're somewhere in the North Atlantic, but the GPS is completely out of signal, and this is the 25th night." "The 25th night of the month, do you mean?" "No, not that. This is the 25th consecutive night. It's been 25 days since the sun last set, but according to the ship's log, it's only been 6 days since we left port." I felt the familiar cold, a ship trapped in an extended time loop. Captain Walters, can you tell me how many people are on board? According to the initial manifest, 247 passengers and 53 crew members. But, his voice hesitated, every hour they change a little. Change how? Their appearance, their voices, even their memories. It's as if they're shape-shifting, and the number changes too. Sometimes I count 300 people, sometimes only 100. I turned on my computer and looked up Atlantic Paradise. A luxury yacht by Crystal Cruises departed Boston on April 7, 2018 for Reykjavik. Scheduled to arrive in Iceland on April 14. Today was the 12th. They should be arriving the day after tomorrow. Captain, can you describe the shape-shifting phenomenon in more detail? Specific examples. There's a girl named Stephanie. In the morning, she's 25, blonde, speaks with an American accent. In the afternoon, she's 40, brunette, speaks with a British accent. In the evening, she's 16 again, red-haired, speaks with an Irish accent. But she still remembers her name is Stephanie. And the others, some just completely disappear then reappear as if they never left. Others, I'm starting to suspect they're not human. Not human? What do you mean? They move a bit strangely, they talk as if they're reading a script, and when they laugh, the sound is more like radio static than laughter. Radio static. I began to understand. This ship wasn't just stuck in time, it was stuck between frequencies of reality. The shape-shifting passengers could be a superposition of many different versions of the same person from parallel realities. Captain Walters, I need you to do something. Do you have the original passenger list? Yes, in my cabin. Go get that list and read out each name, but ask them to confirm their cabin number. Only the real ones will know their exact cabin number. Understood. Wait for me a moment. I heard footsteps on the deck, doors opening and closing, then the rustle of paper. Through the phone, I also heard other sounds. Distant laughter, faint music, and something that sounded like radio waves sweeping through channels. All right, I have the list, but can you explain to me what's happening? Your ship is in a zone where multiple realities intersect. The shape-shifting passengers could be the same person from different parallel universes. As for those who sound like radio static, they might not be human to begin with. So what do I do? First, identify who the real people are. Then we'll find a way to get the ship out of this zone. I heard Captain Walters switch on the loudspeaker. Attention all passengers, please gather in the main lounge. I need to conduct a safety manifest check. The next few minutes I heard through the phone were a surreal scene. Confused footsteps, overlapping voices with many different accents, and occasionally sounds that were completely inhuman. All right, Captain Walters said. I'll start reading names. Stephanie Mitchell, cabin A204. Here, a young woman's voice. What's your cabin number? A204 or B1304 or I don't remember. John Davidson, cabin B156. Here, a middle-aged man's voice. Cabin B156, correct. This process continued for about 20 minutes. Through the phone, I could hear Captain Walters taking notes. Finally, he returned to me. The results are very strange. Out of 247 original passengers, only 31 could correctly confirm their cabin number. The rest either didn't remember or gave multiple different answers or what? Or emitted inhuman sounds like static, mechanical noises, or something that sounded like wind in a vent. Captain, now I need you to gather those 31 real people in one place and separate them from the others. But the others, they don't seem to like this. They're starting to gather, and their shapes are changing faster. Through the phone, I heard an indescribable sound, like many people talking at once but at different frequencies, creating a bizarre cacophony. Captain, take the 31 real people into the main dining room and lock the door. I'm doing it now. My God, they're dissolving into streaks of light, screaming, running, and sounds like distorted radio waves. Then a door slammed and locked. Done. The 31 real people are safe in the dining room. But outside they're transforming into something completely different. Describe it to me. Streaks of multicolored light are moving through the corridors. They emit sounds like a radio searching for a frequency, and sometimes they gather into human shapes. But those shapes only last a few seconds. I understood. The fake passengers were radio signals from other realities, trapped within the metal hull of the ship and trying to rematerialize into human form. When separated from the real people, they couldn't maintain a stable form anymore. Captain, now I need you to check the ship's clocks. What time do they show? Every clock is showing a different time. Some show 11:30 p.m., some 3:45 a.m., some 6:20 p.m., and there's one clock counting down. Counting down from how much? From 17 minutes 32 seconds. Now it's 16 minutes 55 seconds. Counting down to what? I felt an urgent need to act quickly. Captain, can you lead me to the control room? I need to check the radar. Okay, wait for me. I heard footsteps, the sound of doors opening. Through the phone came strange sounds from the corridor, like a howling wind but with a rhythm, like waves lapping but with a beat. I'm in the control room. The radar. The radar display is very strange. Strange how? It shows that we're in the middle of the ocean, but it also shows that we're in port, simultaneously, and there's a very strange signal. What signal? A moving signal. It's not a ship, not a plane. It's like a giant wall moving towards us. A moving wall. I began to understand that could be the boundary between this anomalous zone and normal reality. Captain, how long until that wall reaches you? According to the radar, 15 minutes. It matches the countdown clock exactly. Perfect, that's our way out. Way out, but it looks like it's going to crush us. No, Captain, that's the boundary between this time-distorted zone and normal reality. When it sweeps through the ship will be brought back to linear time. But what about the things outside? They're radio signals. When the boundary sweeps through, they'll dissolve. I heard the sounds from the corridor growing louder, like an orchestra of radio frequencies playing a strange symphony. Captain, in 15 minutes, you need to prepare for a big shock. Tell the 31 real people to hold on to something tightly. Understood, but I have a question. What is it? How do you know all this? How can you understand what's happening? I hesitated. How could I explain that I had spoken to my future self in a tunnel in Berlin? I've encountered similar situations before, Captain, and I've learned that reality doesn't always work the way we think it does. I understand, or at least I'm trying to understand. We waited in relative silence. I could hear the sounds from the corridor gradually changing, from chaotic to something more structured, as if the frequencies were rearranging themselves. 10 minutes, Captain Walders reported. The wall is closer now. I can see it on the radar. It's enormous, hundreds of meters high. 5 minutes. I can see it with my own eyes now. My God, it's like a giant glowing wall reaching up to the sky. 1 minute, Captain, are you ready? I'm ready. The people outside, the streaks of light, they're moving towards the wall as if being sucked in. 30 seconds, it's coming. I can feel the entire ship shaking. A loud bang through the phone, then complete silence. Captain, can you hear me? Silence stretched for 30 seconds then. I'm here, we're fine. The radar shows a normal position, GPS is working again, and, his voice was surprised, this is the morning of the 14th. We skipped 2 days. The other passengers are gone, only the 31 real ones remain. But they don't remember anything about the past 25 days. They think they just slept for one night. That's a good thing. They won't have to live with the memory of what happened. As for you, you will remember. I will remember, and I will record it. The call ended. I sat looking out the window at the vast Atlantic Ocean. Somewhere out there, a yacht was continuing its journey to Reykjavik with 31 passengers. They would never know they had just survived a voyage in waters where time and reality became fluid. I picked up my purple ink pen and began to draw. This time, it was a circle with waves spreading outwards from the center, like radar waves. But at the edge of the circle, the waves were cut off by a straight line, the boundary between the anomalous zone and normal reality. It was a symbol for a reality bubble, a zone where normal physical laws were suspended and signals from many different realities could penetrate. I put the paper in the drawer along with the other symbols. 7 calls, 7 different realities. Or, as my future self had said, 7 intersection points within the same complex reality. I began to see the bigger picture more clearly. I wasn't just the recipient of these calls. I was being trained to understand them, to resolve them, and eventually to create a system that could handle them systematically. But before that happened, I still had many more calls to receive, many more lessons to learn, and many more mysteries to solve. The phone rang again. I looked at the screen, a strange number with an area code I didn't recognize. I picked up. Graves here, because no matter where it led me, I would always answer. Part 8. I decided to take a leave of absence and travel to Europe. After the call from the ship, I needed time to process what was happening to me. The calls were becoming increasingly complex, and I was starting to feel like I was losing the ability to distinguish between reality and other realities. I chose Seville, Spain, an ancient city with a long history, where I hoped to find some peace and perhaps better understand myself. I rented a small apartment in the Santa Cruz neighborhood near the Catedral de Sevilla. It was the biggest mistake of my life. On my first day in Seville, I walked around the city, enjoyed the local cuisine, and tried to forget the purple ink symbols in my jacket pocket. I even left my satellite phone in the apartment, determined to have a completely normal vacation. But at sunset on the second day, as I sat at a small cafe near Plaza de Armas, I heard that sound. Bells, not the bells from the cathedral. I was used to that sound. These were different bells, deeper, more ancient, and something was reversed. I couldn't explain what reversed meant, but the sound was as if it was moving from the future to the past instead of the other way around. Each chime seemed to erase something instead of creating sound. The cafe waitress, a young woman named Alina, noticed my puzzled expression. "Are you all right? Do you hear the bells?" I asked in English. "Which bells?" she replied in Spanish. She looked at me with concern. "There are no bells nearby besides the cathedral." But I still heard them clearly. 3 chimes exactly 7 seconds apart, then silence, then 3 chimes again. I paid and followed the direction of the sound. It led me through the narrow streets of the Santa Cruz neighborhood, away from the main tourist routes. The deeper I went, the clearer the bells became. But at the same time, I started to feel something strange. My memories of the way became hazy. I clearly remembered starting from the cafe, but I couldn't remember which streets I had turned into, which buildings I had passed. It was as if the process of moving was being erased from my memory as it happened. Finally, I stopped before a small building that I was sure wasn't on any tourist map. It was a small, very old church, built of the characteristic yellow sandstone of Andalusia, but something was wrong with the architecture. The bell tower was at the back of the church instead of the front. The main door faced west instead of east, and the windows. They were arranged in an order my eyes couldn't follow, as if they were moving when I wasn't looking. On the main door was a small, oxidized bronze plaque, almost unreadable. I approached and tried to read it. Iglesia de Nuestra Senora de los Ecos Perdidos, 1498, Church of Our Lady of Lost Echoes. The bells chimed again, this time from directly above my head. 3 chimes, 7 seconds apart, and with the third chime, I suddenly couldn't remember the name of Alina, the cafe waitress. I knew I had just spoken to someone, a young woman, but her face had turned into a blur in my memory. The church door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. It was darker than I thought, even though outside the twilight still lingered. Old wooden pews were arranged facing the altar. But the altar? The altar was behind me. I turned around, confused. Surely I had entered through the main door. But now the altar was behind me. And when I turned again, the altar was in front. The bells chimed a third time. This time I lost the memory of the name of the city I was in. I knew I was in Spain, in a large city in the south, but its name had vanished from my memory. "Hello," a voice from the altar. I turned and saw an old priest, perhaps 70 years old, wearing traditional black vestments. He had kind but sad eyes, like someone who had witnessed too much pain. "Father," I greeted in basic Spanish. I heard bells. "Ah, an American," he said in English with a slight Spanish accent. "You have come, we have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me? I'm just a tourist." "No, my son, you are Eli Graves. You receive calls from other realities, and now you have come to us." "How do you know? I've never told anyone about those calls. Padre, how do you know about me?" "Because you have been here before, *hijo*. Each time you hear the bells, you come. Each time you come, you forget, and then you hear the bells again." He pointed up to the bell tower. Las Campanas de la Regression, the bells of regression. They were cast in 1498 from a special alloy, copper, tin, and an unnamed metal. An unnamed metal. A metal that this world has not yet discovered. It was found in a meteorite that fell near Seville in 1497. When cast into bells, it creates a sound that can reverse time. The bells chimed again. This time I lost the memory of my mother's name. I knew I had a mother, knew she had passed away when I was young, but her name had completely vanished. Why? I asked, my voice trembling. Why am I losing my memories? Because these bells do not distinguish between time and memory, my son. To these bells, memory is just time stored in the brain. When they regress time, they also regress memory. So why aren't you affected? The old priest smiled sadly and pointed to his ears. I looked closely and saw small, very old hearing aids. I have been deaf since 1962. My son, these ears can only hear very high frequencies. The bells cannot affect what I cannot hear. So how do I stop them? You cannot stop them, my son, but you can protect your memories. He led me to the back of the altar, where there was a small table with paper, pens, and an old tape recorder. Each time you come here, I explain it to you. Each time you write down what you remember, and each time you record your own voice so you can listen back. On the table was a thick stack of papers with handwriting. My handwriting. I picked up the first sheet. The 17th time, I am Eli Graves. I have lost the memory of my mother's name. Her name is Mylene. I must remember this name. The second sheet, the 18th time, I have lost the memory of my hometown. I was born in Portland, Maine. This is where I grew up. Mylene, my mother's name is Mylene. As soon as I read that name, a wave of memories rushed back. Her face, her voice, the way she sang to me when I was little. You can retrieve your memories by reading what you have writ, the padre explained. But each time the bells chime, you will lose another memory. The bells chimed for the 5th time. This time, I lost the memory of the apartment in Bar Harbor where I had written reports about the calls. What do I do to get out of here? You cannot escape by leaving Hijo. You have tried. Each time you try to leave the church, you automatically turn back. He was right. I remembered trying to walk towards the exit, but somehow finding myself walking towards the altar. So what's the only way? You must create a frequency opposite to the frequency of the bells, a sound that can reverse the effect of the bells. He pointed to an old tape recorder and a set of small speakers. I have recorded the bell sounds from many times you have been here. You can use this machine to play that sound in reverse. I sat down at the table and began to operate the tape recorder. It was old but still worked. I found a tape labeled Campanas Grabashen 47 and put it in the machine. The bells chimed for the 6th time. I lost the memory of the call from the ship Atlantic Paradise. Quickly, I pressed the reverse button on the tape recorder and turned on the speakers. The sound that came out was bells. But in reverse, as if time was moving from the future to the past instead of from the past to the future. Immediately, I felt a wave of memories return. The call from Captain Walters, the ship trapped for 25 nights. The shape-shifting passengers all came back clearly. Very good, Eli, you've done it. But the bells kept chiming. The 7th time, the 8th time each time I had to quickly play the sound in reverse to retrieve the lost memory. Padre, this can't go on forever. I have to find a way to stop the bells completely. You cannot stop them, my son, but you can replace them. Replace them. These bells need a caretaker. Someone must be here to ensure they don't affect the outside world. I have done it for 56 years. I looked at him with sudden understanding. You're retiring. Yes, my son, I am old, and you have the ability to hear sounds from other realities. You are the right person to replace me. But if I stay here, I won't be able to continue receiving other calls. Who says you won't? He smiled mysteriously. Why do you think the bells brought you here? He led me up to the bell tower. There, next to the 3 ancient bells, was a system of modern equipment, computers, radios, and a satellite phone. This is the real dispatch center, Hijo Asterisk. From here, you can receive calls from everywhere, and the sound of the bells, it will help you better understand the nature of time and memory. I looked down at the city of Seville from the bell tower, streetlights beginning to turn on in the twilight. I could see the cathedral in the distance, majestic, and the Guadalquivir River flowing quietly. If I agree, what will happen to my memories? You will learn to live with losing and regaining memories. It will teach you to understand that, like time, they are not fixed. They can be changed, reshaped, used as tools. The bells chimed again. But this time, instead of losing a memory, I felt as if I was being granted a deeper insight into the nature of reality. I accept, I said. The padre nodded and handed me an old key. Then welcome to your new home, the Guardian of Echoes. The Guardian of Echoes. From that day, I lived in the bell tower of the Iglesia de Nuestra Senora de los Ecos Perdidos. Every day the bells chimed 3 times morning, noon, and evening. Each time I lost a memory and had to use the tape recorder to retrieve it. But the strange thing was that this process taught me how to edit my memories. I could choose which memories to keep, which to lose. I could reconstruct memories from fragments or combine memories from different times. And most importantly, from this bell tower, I could receive calls from all over the world. The sound of the bells had created a special resonance field that allowed me to connect with temporal intersection points everywhere. I still remembered, or had reconstructed the memory of, what my future self said in the Berlin Tunnel. You will become the creator of this system. Now I understood. The Iglesia de Nuestra Senora de los Ecos Perdidos was not just a church. It was the center of the cross-time communication network I would build and the time-reversing bells. They were not a curse. They were a training tool, teaching me how to master memory and time. I put the paper with the newest symbol, a reverse spiral, a symbol for time flowing backward, into the drawer next to my computer. 8 calls, 8 lessons, and now a new home and a new mission. The satellite phone on the desk rang. I looked at the screen display, a call from Iceland. I smiled and picked up. Iglesia de los Ecos Perdidos, Graves speaking. Because now I knew who I was and what I had to do. I was the Guardian de los Echoes, the Guardian of Echoes, and my job was to listen to calls from everywhere, every time, and help in any way I could. Even if those calls came from the past, present, future, or realities where time had no meaning. Part 9. After nearly 4 months living in the bell tower in Seville, I had adapted to my new life. The bells were no longer frightening. They had become part of my daily rhythm. I learned to use the process of losing and regaining memories as a tool to help me process information from multiple realities without being overwhelmed. From the bell tower, I had successfully received and processed 23 different calls, from an explorer trapped in a Peruvian cave where time ran slowly, to a woman in Tokyo living simultaneously in 3 different apartments in 3 different centuries. Each call taught me more about the nature of reality and my role in maintaining the balance between spatio-temporal dimensions. But sometimes the universe has its own way of reminding me that no matter how much I understand, there are still much deeper mysteries. On the morning of May 15th, as I sat in my small study on the 2nd floor of the bell tower, compiling a report about a call from a library in Alexandria where books were writing themselves from the future, there was a knock at the door. This was strange, as the church door was always open and few people knew of my existence here. I went down and opened the door. Outside was a man in a Spanish postal uniform, holding a rather large package, but there was something wrong with him. His face was too perfect, like it was computer-rendered, and his eyes held no emotion. "Eli Graves?" he asked in a completely unmodulated voice. "You have a special delivery." He handed me the package and an electronic signature device. On the device's screen displayed, "Firma aqui para un entrega interdimensional. Sign here for an interdimensional delivery." Interdimensional delivery. I signed mechanically, my eyes still fixed on the package. The sender's address sent a shiver down my spine. From Elliot Graves, Time Titan Lab, Phobos Station, NGC 224 Galaxy System. Sent, May 13, 2029. To Iglesia de Nuestra Senora de los Ecos Perdidos, Sevilla, España, Earth. Received, May 15, 2029. On the package was a bright red seal with the words, Room 9 Incineration, Urgent Delivery. When I looked up, the postman had vanished. There was no trace that he had ever been there except for the package in my hand. I took the package up to the bell tower and placed it on my desk. In the light of the desk lamp, I could clearly see the details on the package label. The handwriting was mine. I recognized my characteristic script, the way I wrote the letters E and G. But this handwriting looked older, as if written by a version of me who had experienced many years of stress and fatigue. I opened the package carefully. Inside was a small metal box that looked like those used for important documents. On the lid of the box was engraved, Archive Project Echo Classified Level Omega. Inside the box were three things: a letter sealed in a fireproof plastic bag, a strangely shaped USB drive I had never seen before, and another small envelope labeled, "Open only after reading the main letter." I opened the first letter. The paper was slightly yellowed, and at the edges were small burn marks. The writing was in blue ink, but there were droplets that I suspected were blood. Eli of the past. If you receive this letter, it means Project Echo has failed. I am writing from 2029 at Phobos Station, where I attempted to build a solar system-wide cross-time communication network. The project was too ambitious. We opened connections that should not have been opened. Now, things from other dimensions are infiltrating our reality through that network. Room 9 here, where we stored the most dangerous calls, has been contaminated. The things in there are not human, not from this universe, and they have learned to mimic our voices. I am writing this letter before initiating the final destruction protocol. I will incinerate the entire station, including myself, to prevent these things from spreading. But before I do, I must warn you. Do not build a large-scale network. Do not open connections to other star systems. And most importantly, do not trust any call from anyone claiming to be Eli Graves from the future. I made a huge mistake. Don't let yourself repeat it. This USB drive contains all the data about what happened here. Learn from my mistakes. And that other envelope, only open it when you truly need to know the truth about who you really are. Eli Graves, Timeline Alpha 7, Phobos Station, May 13, 2029. Final hour. Below the signature was a bloody fingerprint. I shined my flashlight on it and compared it to my own fingerprint, a perfect match, down to the smallest detail. I sat in silence for a long time, trying to digest the information I had just read. A version of me from the future had built a cross-time communication network on a solar system scale, but it had led to disaster. Entities from other dimensions had infiltrated our reality, and now my future self had to self-destruct to prevent the catastrophe from spreading. I plugged the USB drive into my computer. Immediately the screen displayed a warning, "Incompatible device. Future technology detected." But after a few seconds, the computer somehow adapted and began to read the data. What I saw made me shiver. These were video logs from Phobos Station. I saw an older version of myself, perhaps 43 years old, with graying hair and a face full of anxious wrinkles. He was sitting in a modern control room. Around him were dozens of screens displaying signals from all over the solar system. Day 247 of Project Echo. My future self's voice said into a recorder. We have succeeded in establishing 57 communication nodes from Mercury to Pluto. The system can handle more than 10,000 calls simultaneously from different points in time. The next video showed the same room, but a few months later. My future self looked more tired and had a long scar on his forehead. Day 312. We have received a signal from the Proxima Centauri system. It was the first call from outside the solar system. I thought it was a big step forward. I was wrong. The final video showed the same room, but now completely changed. Screens were cracked, there were burn marks on the walls, and my future self was sitting in the dark with only a flashlight. I've lost track of time, perhaps day 400-something. Room 9 is completely contaminated. The things in there are not human. They can mimic voices, memories, even DNA, but they have no soul. He looked up directly into the camera. The eyes I saw were the eyes of someone who had witnessed horrors. If anyone is watching this video, especially if it's me from the past, remember, do not trust anyone who claims to be Eli Graves from the future. The things in room 9 have learned to perfectly impersonate. They can call you, tell you things only you would know, and convince you to do things you think are right. I'm about to destroy this station. It's the only way to stop them. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid it's already too late. Perhaps they've already sent signals to Earth. The video ended with an image of my future self preparing a complex explosive device. I turned off the computer and sat in silence. Outside, the bells of the cathedral were chiming 3:00 p.m. Life in Seville continued normally, while I had just discovered that the future could hold unimaginable catastrophes. I looked at the remaining envelope, the one labeled, "Open only after reading the main letter." Instinctively, I knew that what was inside would completely change how I viewed myself, but after everything I had been through, I needed to know the truth. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was just a small piece of paper with a few lines of text. "You are not Elliot Graves. The real Elliot Graves died in a car accident in 2003. You are an entity from another dimension, sent to replace him and build the cross-time communication network. But in the process of living as a human, you develop true human consciousness. You became human. That is why you can hear calls from other realities. That is why you know how to handle them. That is why the purple ink symbols appear automatically. You were created to do this job, but you chose to do it your own way. Don't let this change you. You are still Elliot Graves, not because you were born that way, but because you chose to be that way." As I finished reading the last line, the paper began to burn from the edges. Not with normal fire, but with a kind of cold energy that produced no smoke. In a few seconds, the entire paper had turned to ash, floating up into the air, and as the ash particles rose, they arranged themselves into symbols in the air. I recognized them as Morse code. DONT-REPLY. The ash particles lingered in the air long enough for me to read the message, then completely vanished. I sat down, feeling dizzy. Everything I knew about myself might be wrong. I might not be human. I might have been created by entities from another dimension to perform a specific task. But even if that were true, I still felt like Elliot Graves. I still had memories of my childhood, my family, my first calls. The emotions, the thoughts, the decisions, all felt real to me. Perhaps human nature isn't in origin, but in choice. I chose to act like a human, feel like a human, and care about what humans care about. I stood up and went to the filing cabinet where I stored all the reports about the calls I had handled. There were 31 files so far. Each file documented a story about someone who needed help finding their way home, to their time, or to peace. That was what truly mattered. Not who I was, but who I had helped. I took out a new piece of paper and began to write a report about the package from Phobos Station. But I decided not to record the information about my true nature. Some truths are better left secret, even from oneself. I would continue to be Elliot Graves, guardian de los ecos, the guardian of echoes from all corners of the universe. I would continue to receive calls and help in any way I could, but I would also remember the warning from the future. Do not build too large a network, do not open connections to other star systems, and never trust any call from anyone claiming to be Elliot Graves from the future. Because some paths should not be taken, no matter how tempting they are. I sealed the report in an envelope and put it in a special safe. The safe that only I knew how to open and could only be opened with my fingerprint. That would be the final proof of what happened today, just in case one day I needed to remember. Outside, the first bell of the afternoon began to chime. As was my habit, I prepared the tape recorder to restore the memory I was about to lose. But this time, I decided to let go of the memory of my true origin. Some truths are better forgotten. As the bell chimed, I felt a part of my memory about the final envelope fading, but I still remembered the important things: the warning about the future, the danger of building too large a network, and the determination to continue this work in my own way. The satellite phone rang. A call from Norway. I smiled and picked up. Iglesia de los Ecos Perdidos, Graves speaking. Even if I might not be human by birth, I am human by choice, and that is the only thing that matters. The story of the package from Phobos had ended, but the story of Elliot Graves, whoever he truly was, continued. Part 10. After the incident with the package from Phobos Station, I became much more cautious with the calls I received. The warning from the future or from someone claiming to be me from the future made me suspect everything. I had set up a complex verification system to confirm the authenticity of each call. But the call I received at 2:23 p.m. on September 17th broke through all my verification systems. Iglesia de los Ecos Perdidos, Graves speaking. First, there was complete silence. Not the kind of silence when a connection is lost, but a deep, profound silence, as if sound was being sucked into an acoustic black hole. Then a young woman's voice spoke in Japanese with a desperate tone. Moshi moshi, Sumiko, is anyone there? Hello, I'm here, I replied in English. Do you need help? Hello, is anyone there? Her voice switched to English with an American accent, but still a slight Japanese lilt. Oh, thank God, I'm stuck. I'm in a hotel, but something's very wrong with this place. What's your name and where are you? My name is Yuki Tanaka. I think I'm in Tokyo, but I'm not sure anymore. The hotel is called. Wait, let me see. Neo Babylon Hotel, but the signs keep changing. Neo Babylon Hotel. I did a quick search on my computer. No hotel by that name in Tokyo. In fact, no hotel by that name anywhere in the world. Yuki, can you describe the problem you're experiencing in more detail? I'm stuck in room 0, but that can't be right, can it? There shouldn't be a room 0. And the elevator only goes from floor to floor +1, there's no ground floor. No ground floor. This was an impossible architectural concept, but I had learned that in these calls, the impossible often became reality. Can you describe the layout of the hotel to me? It's very confusing. I go up from floor to floor 1, but when I try to exit floor 1, the hallway just repeats. I walk straight, but somehow I always end up back at the elevator. A looping hallway. This sounded like non-Euclidean topology. Yuki, are there mirrors in the hallway? Yes, there are mirrors everywhere. Big floor-to-ceiling mirrors, but they show strange things. Strange how? The sound changed through the phone, as if Yuki was moving. I'm looking into a mirror now. It shows me, but it also shows another man standing behind me. An older man with gray hair wearing a dark suit. He looks exactly like someone I know, but older. That description made me uneasy. Gray hair, suit, that could be a description of me in the future, but I had been warned not to trust anyone claiming to be Eli Graves from the future. Yuki, does that man say anything to you? He's not talking to me. He's talking to someone I can't see, and his mouth. When he smiles, his teeth are stained purple, as if he just drank ink. Purple-stained teeth. My heart suddenly pounded. That was the exact sign I often saw after writing symbols with purple ink. Could the man in the mirror be me? Yuki, can you try something? Take anything, a pen, lipstick, anything, and draw a straight line on the floor, then follow that line and see what happens. Okay, I have lipstick. I'm drawing a line. This is weird. The line I just drew is curving even though I drew it straight. Curving how? It's as if the floor is curved, but I can't see the curvature. Wait, I'm following the line and, oh my God. What is it? This line, it's connecting back to itself. I drew what I thought was a straight line, but it formed a loop, and now I'm back where I started. A straight line connecting back to itself. That could only happen on a Mobius surface, a surface with no distinct inside and outside. Yuki, I think I understand the problem. That hotel hallway is designed like a Mobius strip. That's why you can't get out. A Mobius strip. Imagine you take a strip of paper, twist one end 180 degrees, then join the two ends. You'll have a surface with only one side. But how is that possible in actual architecture? That's a good question. In normal architecture, it's not possible. But perhaps this isn't normal architecture. Yuki, do you remember how you got to this hotel? I was walking in Shibuya, there was construction, and I took a detour through some back alleys. Then I saw this hotel and thought it looked interesting. Very unusual architecture, very geometric, very modern. Unusual how? It looks like a living Escher painting. Staircases going in impossible directions. Windows showing the inside from the outside, and vice versa. M.C. Escher. Paintings of impossible structures, infinite staircases, buildings where inside and outside swap places. If this hotel was built on that principle, Yuki, I need you to do something else. Find the biggest mirror and smash it. Smash the mirror, why? Because I suspect those mirrors are not merely reflections. They might be transit gates, a way to go from one side of the Mobius strip to another. But on a Mobius strip, there's only one side. Exactly, that's the paradox, and sometimes breaking the paradox is the only way out. I heard Yuki moving, footsteps on marble floor. I found a big mirror. It It's showing that man again, but now he's looking straight at me and he's holding a sign. What does the sign say? It says, "Hello, Elliot, you look older," and now he's writing something on the back of the sign. I felt a cold dread. The man in the mirror knew my name and was talking directly to me through Yuki. Yuki, don't read what he's writing. Smash the mirror now. Wait, I can see what he's writing. It says, "She's not real. This is a test. Stop helping the fakes and start helping yourself." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. Yuki, not real. This is just a test. Yuki, can you prove to me that you're real? What do you mean? Of course I'm real. Tell me something only a real person would know. A personal memory, a secret, anything that proves you have genuine consciousness. Silence on the other end, too long. I remember my first day at college. I was studying architecture at Wasta. I was so nervous because I didn't know anyone. I spilled coffee on my white shirt and cried in the bathroom. Too perfect a detail, too pre-prepared. Yuki, smash that mirror right now. But the man in the mirror, he's shaking his head. He's holding up another sign. It says, "If she smashes the mirror, you will never find the real Yuki." The real Yuki, so that means there's a real Yuki somewhere. Elliot, Yuki's voice suddenly changed, becoming deeper, more mechanical. You are doubting my reality. That hurts me. Who are you? I am whoever I need to be to teach you a lesson. You have helped people for years, Elliot, but you never asked the important question, are they worth helping? The voice was completely different now, no longer that of a young Japanese girl, but something ancient and cold. What do you want? I want you to understand that compassion without discrimination is weakness. Not everyone deserves to be saved, Elliot. Some are merely tests. And if I don't learn that lesson? Then you will continue to receive calls from fakes until you learn to distinguish, until you become hardened enough to do what needs to be done. I heard the sound of breaking glass through the phone. Oh, she smashed it, the voice said with a tone of disappointment. What a pity. What happened to Yuki? She was never real, Elliot, but there is a real Yuki Tanaka studying architecture at Wasta University. She is sleeping soundly in her dorm room right now, completely unaware that her identity was borrowed for this little experiment. Why did you do this? Because you needed to learn, Elliot. You cannot save everyone, and you certainly cannot save everyone who calls you. Some calls are traps, some people are tests, and some, the voice stopped. Some are worse. The line disconnected. I sat in silence for a long time, feeling as if I had just been hit over the head with a club. The call wasn't from someone who needed help, but from something that wanted to test me, to teach me a lesson. But what was that lesson? That I shouldn't trust? That I should become hardened and refuse to help those who might not be real? I stood up and went to the window, looking out at the city of Seville. Life still went on normally outside. People going to work, children playing in the park, couples sitting at cafes. All real, all valuable. Had I been too naive? Had I helped without questioning? Maybe. But I'd rather be naive and save one real person than be hardened and let a real person die. I returned to my desk and began writing a report. But this time, I wrote 2 reports. One official report about the test call from an unidentified entity, and one secret report about my thoughts. In the secret report, I wrote, perhaps today's call was a test. Perhaps someone or something wanted me to become harder, more suspicious, but I refused to change my approach. If out of 100 calls, 99 are fake and 1 is real, I will answer all 100 calls. Because that one real call could be from someone who truly needs help. Compassion without discrimination may be weakness from today's entity's perspective, but from my perspective, that is humanity. I put the report in the safe and locked it. As I prepared for bed, the phone rang again. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. Iglesia de los Ecos Perdidos, Graves speaking. Hello, is this the emergency line? I'm trapped in a collapsed building in Mumbai. Please help me. A middle-aged man's voice, sounding very pained and scared. Could be fake, could be another test, but could also be real. I'm here, I said. Tell me your exact location. Because no matter how many tests, how many fake calls, I will still answer, I will still help, I will still trust. That is not weakness, that is a choice, and that is what makes me who I am. whether I am truly human or not. Part 11. In early 2020, the outside world was in chaos due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Cities were locked down, borders closed, and millions of people were quarantined at home. But for me, who had lived in relative isolation in the Bell Tower in Seville for nearly 2 years, life hadn't changed much. In fact, the number of calls I received had increased significantly. It seemed that as the outside world became unstable, the boundaries between realities also became thinner. I had handled 53 different calls since the beginning of the year, from a doctor trapped in a Wuhan hospital where time ran backward, to a family in New York living simultaneously in 3 different timelines of the same apartment. But the call I received on the evening of May 15th was completely different. It didn't come from someone who needed help. It came from someone who wanted to help me. Iglesia de los Ecos Perdidos, Graves speaking. Good evening, is this Eli Graves? Icelandic. I didn't know Icelandic, but somehow I understood what the person said. Yes, I'm Elliot, do you speak English? Ah, yes, I speak English. My name is Jorn, I run how do I say it? A memory repair service, and I believe you need my help. A memory repair service. That sounded like science fiction, but after all I'd been through, nothing was impossible. I don't think I need my memories repaired. My memories work quite well, though they can be a bit complex. No, you misunderstand. I don't repair broken memories. I repair infected asterisk memories. Memories that have been mixed with something that doesn't belong to them. Infected memories. I thought of the strange memories I sometimes had. Memories of places I'd never been, of people I'd never met, of languages I'd never learned. Jorn, where are you and how do you know about me? I'm in Reykjavik at the night market. I have a small truck, a mobile memory clinic, and I know about you because you've been calling for help for 15 years. I've been calling for help. I don't remember calling anyone. Not you, the adult, but you when you were young. Elliot Graves, 19 years old, lost at a state fair in Maine in 2005. That young man has been calling every night since. A harsh cold ran down my spine. In 2005, when I was 19, I got lost at a state fair in Maine. I remembered the fear, the panic of being separated from my friends in the dark, and finally the relief when I was found. But I didn't remember calling anyone. How could that be? I was found. I was safe. Yes, your physical body was found, but a part of your psyche, the emotional core from that moment, it got stuck, trapped in the fear and confusion of being lost. And that part has been sending out distress signals ever since. Distress signals to where? To any frequency willing to listen, including your current frequency. Elliot, you have been receiving your own distress calls without knowing it. That made a strange kind of sense. All the calls I received, did they all stem from my 19-year-old self trying to call for help? Did my ability to hear calls from other realities originate from me creating the first signal? Jorn, if what you're saying is true, why don't I hear my own call? Because the signal is hidden. It comes as background noise, static, the sound your equipment makes when no one is calling. But if you listen carefully to the recordings, I heard Jorn moving, perhaps opening some device. I've isolated the frequency, let me play it for you. Through the phone, I heard a sound I was familiar with, the normal static of radio equipment. But as Jorn adjusted the frequency, that static gradually took shape. The crying of a young man, not just any crying, I recognized it immediately. It was the crying of my 19-year-old self, panicked, scared, and full of insecurity, lost in the dark night. Oh my God, I whispered, that's really me. Yes, for 15 years, this young man has been calling for help, and because he's calling from within your own psyche, the signal is amplified and broadcast everywhere. That's why you can hear calls from other realities, Elliot. You are a radio tower powered by psychological trauma. A radio tower powered by psychological trauma. That explained why I could hear calls that no one else could. How do I fix it? I need to create a harmonizing frequency that will soothe the young man, help him understand that he is safe, that he has been found. It's delicate work. If I get the frequency wrong, I could damage other parts of your psyche. And if you succeed, the call will stop. The 19-year-old Elliot will finally be at peace. But, Jorn hesitated, you might lose your ability to hear calls from other realities. The tower will shut down. It was a difficult decision. My ability came from the pain of a 19-year-old who had been panicked for 15 years. I could heal that pain, but it would mean losing my ability to help others. Jorn, if I lose this ability, will anyone else be able to do this work? I don't know, Elliot. You might be unique, or you might be one of many, but that's not your responsibility to worry about. He was right. I couldn't let a 19-year-old remain panicked forever just because I wanted to keep a special ability. Do it, Jorn. Help him find peace. Are you sure? I'm sure, I heard Jorn adjusting his equipment. Through the phone, the sound began to change. The crying of the child was still there, but now there was another frequency, gentle, warm, like a mother's lullaby. Immediately, a wave of memories rushed back. I remembered exactly what happened at the fair in 2005. I got lost playing a game and went the wrong way. I cried and called for my mother, but she couldn't hear me over the noise of the fair. But now, in that memory, I heard a familiar voice answering my call. I'm here, son. Mom's here now, you're safe. It was my own voice, my present self's voice going back to comfort my younger self. I can hear you talking to the boy, Jorn said through the phone. Excellent, you're creating a closed loop. Your adult self comforting your younger self. That's how we heal temporal trauma. I continued to talk to my 6-year-old self in the memory. You're not lost anymore. Mom found you. You'll grow up and become someone who helps others. You'll be okay. The crying gradually subsided, replaced by the steady breathing of a child finally at peace. Done, Jorn said. The boy is at peace. Immediately, I felt a huge difference. The sounds I always heard in the background, the static, the distant wind howls, the mechanical noises from other realities, all were silent. I turned on the radio and scanned through frequencies. Nothing, just normal static. Jorn, I think I've lost my ability. Yes, that was to be expected, but Elliot, check your email. Email? Just check, you'll understand. I opened my computer and checked my email. There were 47 new emails from addresses I didn't recognize. All had the same subject line, "Thank you for showing us the way." I opened the first email. Dear Elliot asterisk. My name is Stephanie Crava. I live in Vancouver. 3 months ago, I started hearing voices, people calling for help from what seemed to be other dimensions. I thought I was going crazy until I found your frequency. By listening to how you handled those calls, I learned how to help them. I have successfully assisted 12 people so far. When your signal went silent tonight, I understood that you had completed your training phase. Now it's our turn. There are currently 47 of us across the world, all connected through the network you unknowingly created. We will continue the work. Thank you for teaching us how to listen. Stephanie Crava, Node 23, Vancouver. I read this email many times, then opened the others. All were from different people in different cities around the world. All talked about how they had learned to hear calls from other realities by observing me. Jorn, I said into the phone, you knew this all along. Yes, you were never meant to do this alone forever, Elliot. You were meant to be the first one, the prototype, the one who shows others how to do it. So now what? Now you rest. You've carried the pain of a 6-year-old boy for 15 years. You've used that pain to help hundreds of people find their way home. You deserve peace. He was right. I felt a relief I had never known. The burden I didn't know I was carrying had been lifted. Jorn, thank you. Where are you? I want to meet you. You can't find me, Elliot. I only exist when someone needs memory repair. Tomorrow, there will be no record of this call. No record of a Jorn in Reykjavik with a memory repair truck. So who are you? I am what you created, Elliot. When you healed your own childhood trauma, you created the ability for others to heal theirs. I am that ability given form. The line disconnected before I could say anything more. I sat in the bell tower in complete silence. For the first time in years, I heard no sounds from other realities, only the wind blowing through the window and the distant traffic from the city of Seville. I opened the drawer and took out all the purple ink symbols I had drawn over the years. 47 symbols for 47 calls handled, and now there were 47 others continuing this work. It wasn't a coincidence. I drew the final symbol, a simple circle, nothing complex. a symbol for completion, for a cycle ending and a new cycle beginning. Then I put all the symbols in a small box and locked it. They were relics of a phase in my life. The phase where I was a radio tower powered by psychological trauma. Now I could just be Eli Graves, a man living in a bell tower in Seville with strange memories of talking to people from other realities. The satellite phone no longer rang, but I didn't feel sad. I felt complete. The 19-year-old had found peace, and by doing so, he had taught 47 others how to become guides for other lost souls. That was a legacy to leave behind. I blew out the candle on the desk and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept without hearing calls from anywhere. Only my own steady breathing and the peace of someone who had finally found home. The end. 3 months had passed since the cries of the 6-year-old boy were finally comforted. 3 months I lived in complete silence, no longer hearing any calls from other realities. This should have made me feel relieved, but instead, I felt empty. Not empty in a negative sense, but like a cup that had been completely cleaned, ready to hold something new. I just didn't know what that something was. On the morning of June 20, 2020, I sat in the bell tower with a cup of coffee, reading update emails from the 47 nodes around the world. Stephanie in Vancouver had helped a family escape an apartment building where each floor existed in a different decade. Musen in Berlin, not the deceased Musen Wheeler, had guided a group of miners out of a coal mine where time ran backward. Elena in Mexico City had helped a young girl communicate with her future self to prevent a catastrophe. Each story filled me with pride and satisfaction. The work was still continuing, and it seemed to be done better by 47 people instead of just one. But at 11:23 p.m. that day, everything changed. First, there was noise, not a specific call, but a sudden wave of static that assaulted me from all directions. Every electronic device in the bell tower began to emit sounds: radio, TV, computer, even the microwave. All at once, they broadcast overlapping SOS signals. SOS in English, SOS in French, SOS in Morse code, SOS in languages I didn't recognize, SOS from frequencies that human ears couldn't hear. I ran to the control panel and tried to adjust it, but it was no use. Every channel, every frequency was drowned in this wave of distress signals. Then, through all that noise, I heard a familiar voice. "Eli, Eli, can you hear me?" It was my voice, but not my current voice. It was my voice, more tired, older, more desperate. I heard myself speaking into the microphone. "Who are you?" "I am you, Eli. I am you from another timeline, and I need you to take over my shift." Another timeline. There are thousands of timelines, thousands of versions of you doing the same work in different realities. And now the system is collapsing. I felt the familiar cold. Collapsing how? Too many connections, too many calls. The membrane between realities is tearing. We've tried to hold it together, but we're exhausted. Some of us have been doing this for decades, some for centuries. Centuries. "Eli, I need you to take over my shift, just for a little while so I can rest." "But I've lost my ability. I can't hear calls anymore." "You haven't lost your ability, Eli. You've learned to control it. There's a difference." Perhaps he was right. Perhaps I hadn't lost the ability, but just learned how to turn it off. If I take over your shift, what will happen? You will become part of the network. The real network. Not just the 47 people on Earth, but thousands of versions of yourself across infinite realities, all working together to keep the boundaries stable. And if I refuse? Silence, then with a sad voice, then this reality will collapse into others. Everything you know, everyone you care about will just become noise in the static. I looked out the window at the sleeping city of Seville. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that their existence depended on a network of versions of a man named Eli Graves. How long will I have to do it? I don't know, Eli. Perhaps many years, perhaps forever. Time operates differently when you are part of the network. And I'll still be me. You will still be you, but you will also be us. You will have access to the memories and experiences of every Eli Graves who has ever done this work. You will understand things you never imagined. I thought of the 47 nodes on Earth, the people who were continuing the work I had started. They could handle calls from this reality, but it seemed someone was needed to work at a higher level, keeping the boundaries between realities from collapsing. If I agree, can I ever go back? I don't know, Eli. None of us have ever tried to leave. Because you can't, or because you don't want to. Because once you see the whole picture, once you understand how vast and fragile this system is, leaving becomes unthinkable. That could be a warning, or it could be the truth. I stood up and went to the cabinet where I stored the box containing the 47 purple ink symbols. I opened the box and looked at them. The symbols for each call I had handled, each person I had helped. Each symbol had its own logic. Each symbol told a story about someone who had found their way home. Perhaps it was time for me to find my own true way home. "All right," I said into the microphone. "I'll take over your shift." "Are you sure?" "I understand." As soon as I spoke those two words, everything changed. All the noise stopped. Every electronic device went silent, the lights in the bell tower went out, leaving only the moonlight streaming through the window. But I didn't feel darkness, I felt connection. Suddenly, I could perceive thousands of other consciousnesses coexisting with me. Thousands of Eli Graves from thousands of different realities, all doing similar work. Some were handling calls from underground cities beneath the earth. Some were helping ships lost in interstellar space. Some were guiding souls through dimensions that physics had not yet discovered. I saw the entire picture. Reality was not a fixed thing, but an infinitely complex network of overlapping possibilities. And at each intersection point, someone was needed to ensure that the flows of reality did not catastrophically collide. That was our job. That was why we existed. "Welcome to the network, Elliot," my other voice said, but now I could see him, a version of me with completely white hair, sitting in a similar bell tower in a city I didn't recognize. "You can rest now," I said to him. "I'll take over." He smiled, a tired but relieved smile, then vanished, gone to rest after decades of guarding the boundaries. I sat down at the desk, now equipped with devices I had never seen before. Screens displayed thousands of signals from across the multiverse. Radios could pick up frequencies from dimensions that humans had no names for. The first call came from a reality where gravity worked in reverse, and a family needed help escaping their house that was falling upwards into the sky. I smiled and picked up the phone. "Multiverse Emergency Network, Node Prime Alpha 7, Graves speaking." And me, did I regret my decision? It's hard to answer that question. Regret assumes I am still the same person who made the initial decision, but now I am more than that. I am a synthesis of thousands of Eli Graves, each carrying their own experiences and wisdom. There are times I miss the simple life in the bell tower in Seville, when my biggest concern was just the next call. There are times I wonder if the people I left behind the 47 nodes on Earth are thinking of me. But then I receive a call from a child lost in an infinite library, or from an elderly couple trapped in a time loop in their garden. And I remember why I do this. There are stories that need to be told. There are souls that need to be guided home, and there is an entire multiverse that needs to be protected from collapse. It may not be the life Eli Graves from Portland, Maine, envisioned for himself, but it is the life the universe or multiverse needed him to live. And perhaps in the end, that is all that matters. The phone rang again, a call from a timeline where music could heal cracks in space. I picked up. "Multiverse Emergency Network, Graves speaking." Because no matter where I am, no matter who I am, one thing never changes: I will always answer. These last lines were written in purple ink on a piece of paper left in the bell tower in Seville. No one knows who wrote them or when they appeared there. The church administrators found this paper on the morning of June 21, 2020, along with 47 strange symbols and a satellite phone that was still warm, as if it had just been used. But Eli Graves was nowhere to be found. Perhaps he had found his way home, or perhaps he had become a home for others. Only the calls in the night would know the truth.